Clementine to do roll call, and then she's going to provide some basic instructions about how the public can participate in public comment.
Councilmember Barber,
Present.
Councilmember Garcia,
Here.
Councilmember Hoffa,
Here.
Councilmember Smith,
Present.
and Mayor Williamson.
Here.
And information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is available on this meeting's agenda, which is online at isearchmonterey.org. Remote commenters, you will be muted until it is your turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you are connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In the chamber, we recommend keeping your phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. Thank you for participating in your city government.
Thank you, Clementine. And with that, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Councilmember Hoffa to start us off here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Thank you, Councilmember Hoffa. And with that, we'll go into our presentation. Item number 1 on the agenda is a report on 211 Monterey County. They do a lot of great work in the community. So with that, I'll pass it to Hans for introductions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As always, we have a presentation once a year by Kathy Castagna talking about the good things that 211 services are doing countywide, but also special emphasis on our residents here and what they have accomplished. We've partnered during COVID with them about housing assistance, and then had a very successful partnership about that. And I'm curious to hear what she presents to us today.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everybody, Mayor and council members. Very happy to be here once again. My name is Katie Castagna. I'm the president and CEO for United Way Monterey County. And although I have a lot to talk about, I've been asked to talk about 211 today, so I'll try and keep it to that. And it is my pleasure to present some updates on our 211 information and referral program. We've had over 228,000 calls in the past 15 years. And I just want to share with you and remind the public about 211 as a key part of our infrastructure for delivering health and human services. So just a brief reminder of what 211 Monterey County is. It's a free information and referral resource helpline available to Monterey County residents. It's available 24/7, and people that dial 211 can get in touch with a live trained professional operator and ask for help in navigating services and knowing where to go for the types of services they need. You can dial 211, but you can also interact with it via text. So we have a two-way text interface, and then you can also search online at 211montereycounty.org through our searchable database. And so that's also a way for you to check it out and see what kinds of resources we have there. People do start by contacting our professional call service call specialists, and they review the eligibility and needs of the person. The reason you would call 211 is if you know you need help and you don't know where to go. So you describe the type of help you need, and then the call specialist provides names, addresses, phone numbers, in particular hours of operation and eligibility of services that might be the right match for the caller. And then the caller is asked to follow up directly with those agencies. So just one of the great things about 211 is it tells us what our community members want and need help with. And it tells us how many people and where they're calling from. So this is a recap of our 2023 call volumes. And you'll see it does vary by month. There's a little bit of seasonality to it. And this shows you from January through December, the call volume countywide. We had, it also will show you, you'll see we had over 13,000 calls or texts. We also made 18,000 referrals. Often somebody will get more than one referral based on their needs. We also the other thing about 211 is it's a national service. So as much as We are proud of it here in Monterey County. It is connected to a movement nationwide. And so it's something to remind people if they're moving to another community, or for people that move here who may already be familiar with 211, they understand the system and how it works. So it's something we can also use to compare data nationally. So what you'll see here in the most pressing needs that we heard about last year, housing is number one. I don't need to tell you that, but that is shown here in the data consistently, followed by utility assistance, and then legal and consumer and public safety services, income support, so information about benefits and how to enroll, and then food and meals. So those were the top 5 categories that people were calling about here in Monterey County. And you'll see in the second column on that table how that compares to the country nationwide. And it's similar, although nationally there was a little more, you'll see in number 5 was mental health, and that was a little higher than countywide. But what I want to show you is how we drill down then into, well, what does Monterey, the city of Monterey, look like? And so this is the city contact data for last year. We had over 1,000 calls or texts and made over 1,100 referrals. You'll see there's some variation by month. I do want to talk about that because you'll see some spikes, and this is consistent with the county as well. In January and March, we had a very high call volume, and that is directly related to those winter storms we experienced last year. So countywide, we had a lot of calls about flooding in Salinas Valley and Pajaro. I know here on the peninsula, there was a lot of storm damage to trees, power outages, and that sort of thing. And 211 can be a very instrumental resource for public safety and disaster response, which again, you'll see really in those spikes in January and March of last year. As far as the needs for the city callers, you'll see we have here compared to the county data, which we saw on the last slide. Again, the city of Monterey needs, housing is number 1, followed by utility assistance and legal assistance. Then a little bit of a change, the individual supports, and then you will see mental health as number 5 here. That was a little higher than it was countywide. I also want to share out the way that people contact 211 via the website. We have thousands of web searches each year too. It was over 30,000 last year. So this is the 2023 data in general. One of the other things about 211 is it will give us real-time data. So I took a snapshot of April, for example, and drilled a little deeper to show you of the people in Monterey who called in April, what were the top needs that they were looking for. And this breaks down a little more detail. Yes, we know rent and or housing and utilities, but you see the different categories of services we have. So it's rent payment, electric service payment, water, shelter, homeless shelter, temporary financial assistance. So that's really who has cash assistance of some sort. Transitional housing shelter, other subsidized rental housing, and so forth, gas rental and general legal aid. So this just gives you a snapshot of what your community called about in April, and also the power of 211 to collect this kind of information about what are the needs that people are expressing. We do also on I think it's a quarterly basis, capture unmet needs. So there's a lot of times people call for something and we don't even have a referral for them. So we do some analysis of that and we share that. We actually work with the health department who funds us on a project related to unmet needs. And so it's a really valuable source of data that that helps people, but also helps you as policymakers and the community better understand the needs here. Just this is an interesting table to show the growth and change of 211 over the past 5 years. So it's a little busy, but what I want to take you through is month by month, you'll see each bar shows a different year. And this shows some of the change since 2019. So 2019 is in the blue, the first bar on the left of each month. I think that's the darker blue. And then you'll see 2020 being the orange, and the yellow being 21, and so forth, up into 22 and 23. So what you'll see again is some seasonality to the usage of 211, but you'll also see that over time, although there was a huge spike at the beginning and middle of the pandemic, the call volume has gone down, but it is still consistently higher than it was pre-pandemic. And so I think that shows us a couple of things. I think with the pandemic, 211 was very well utilized for helping people navigate circumstances that none of us had ever been through before. So we helped with information on public health, on PPE, on the virus itself, but also on rental assistance and vaccine appointment setting even we did. But it made 211 more of a household name. And since then, we've continued to use it and see very high volume. So that just shows that we, continue to feel that this is a valued service that is available to people when they do need it. And finally, I just wanted to share out, we do have collateral material, and I brought some with me that you can pass out to community, or I can leave for the community members, that really describes 211 and the types of services available and helps all of us make a connection for people when they need it most. A note on that mental health, we saw that spike, and that's one of the programs that we have built with 211 resources to make better connections for substance use disorder and mental health providers. We have a Hope and Help program that is helping make better and more seamless connections for people needing those services, just as an example of how we're building on the resource platform of 211 and the partners that we've collected around it. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions, and I want to thank you once again for the support from the City of Monterey. While 211 is free to the caller, it is not free to operate. So we depend on commitment from private foundations, government entities, individuals, corporations, and we've enjoyed very strong support from our local cities, led by the City of Monterey. So thank you for that support.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your organization's efforts. So I'll share with the group, and we saw that housing was high on the list every time. And throughout the pandemic, when we allocated funding for the rental assistance program, we partnered with you all, and it really helped us be able to manage that process and make sure that we could support our residents. So we just want to thank you for the partnership there and all the work that you all do. I'll open it up to the council if you have any questions or comments. Dr. Barber.
Yes, I echo the mayor. Thank you so much for your service and what you have done with 211. I think it's just wonderful, because if people have no idea where to go, 211 is where to go. But I'm curious about the unmet needs. Is it any kind of way that we can get that report for the council?
We could provide that. Yes, I don't have that in front of me, that
Yes,
data, but
yes.
sure, absolutely. And then
If
you'll
you
see
could
the
do that,
types
that would
of
be- that'd be
gaps.
appreciated. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate that. A lot of hard work, a lot of calls in the last year. I'm just curious, staffing wise, are you about the same as you were pre-COVID? And if you could just give us a thumbnail sketch of how do you manage your staff? How many are there? And how are you doing in terms of what you may need for additional resources?
So the United Way staff as a whole organization is, interestingly, about the same size. 211, when we first started it, we brought 211 to Monterey County in 2009, so 15 years ago. And we decided to use a model of contracting out for the call specialists. And we work with a nonprofit agency that specializes in 211 calls. They're located in Ventura County. And they, honestly, they have struggled with staffing, as many organizations do. But they serve many other counties. So actually, as far as head count, I couldn't tell you where they are with FTEs. Unfortunately, I think our wait time has gone up a little bit. So that's what I would just caveat, that if somebody has to wait on the line a few minutes before getting to a call specialist, please, please be patient. But the movement has grown. I know many United Ways contract with this particular call center, and we're looking at ways to strengthen that. We're also looking for ways to get the state of California to invest more in 211 and the infrastructure.
Yeah, good move. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Councilman Garcia?
Thank you, Katie. Good to see you.
Yeah.
A couple questions here. As I was looking at the, I think it was the annual report, I noticed that there's a blurb here saying that United Way offered 57 financial literacy education workshops in Spanish and English. I just wanted to point that out. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm hoping that maybe some of those have also happened in the city of Monterey. And if not, we definitely would welcome that. I'm wondering if, off the top of your head, you can also, if there are other programs that are offered just like this one, can you?
Sure. So the financial literacy programs that we offer currently are funded through the Community Action Partnership with the county. They're targeting poverty level and below individuals in the community. We provide them countywide, free of charge we partner with school districts and community organizations. So I would be happy to make connections to make sure that we're reaching people in Monterey, but we know that actually people of all income levels really need financial literacy education. So we are looking to grow that program, and we do have some funding to go beyond that target population. So very happy to talk about expanding that. As far as other services, we also have our free tax preparation program. We just finished that April 15th, and MPC is one of our partners. So I know that we've provided service on campus at MPC.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And my second question, and more specific to 211, could you just offer just even a general idea of how that resource, the information about that resource is getting out to the public?
Well, over the years, we've used a lot of different ways. We started actually using a partnership with MST, for example. We used to be on the sides of buses. We've done a lot of television and radio PSAs. Really, a big piece of it is partnership through agencies that are serving the community already. A lot of times an agency might provide one service, but they have a client that needs a different service. And so it's really word of mouth through those service providers that's been very strong. And then actually we got a big boost as far as the promotion during the pandemic. Unfortunately, a lot of the COVID vaccination and information campaigns that the county ran linked everybody back to 211 to find out more information. So many different ways. We have business card size handouts and rat cards like I have, bookmarks. So happy to share out collateral to any group that we can. Thank you.
Councilman Berhoff?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I wonder if you could provide a little more context on the housing item. And in particular, I'm wondering, like, where are some of the places that people are referred most commonly? And then two, obviously we probably don't have data on this, but do you have a sense of how successful we are at being able to actually place people in housing, or where, kind of what that looks like in terms of the resources of the agencies that people are being referred to for help with housing?
Thank you. Great question. We have a long way to go in housing, and there have been, and I know you've recently opened a new program and have a lot of experience there. Even when we first launched the first month, I remember housing being the top need. And I think the types of housing and the types of circumstance range from somebody needing a shelter that may be a candidate for Dorothy's Place to wanting or needing or being a candidate for longer term options like a Chispa or a mid-pen. So those are the types of resources that we refer to. iHelp, of course. Gathering for Women for support. So a lot of the agencies that I know you support and fund, but the demand seems to grow astronomically, and I know the supply is quite limited. I think it's important to remember the whole range of needs people have. You know, there's the chronic homelessness, but then there's also the people that are doubled and tripled up or having to leave the community. So I can't stress enough how much of a demand there is and how we need to really focus on supply. The role that 211 is playing is really in navigation, helping people find out what's available now. And most of the places I just listed have long waiting lists, and they're not necessarily available, you know, on the spot in real time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you all for the questions. I think really good conversation. Thank you again, Katie, for coming and joining us. With that, I will open it up for public comments. So for folks that want to speak to the presentation that was just given on 211 from United Way, and let me just take a second to describe for everybody the process in regards to how public comments work. And I just want to give a little bit of context too. So I guess a couple of months ago, we had some Zoom bombing that occurred. And one option was to completely eliminate the opportunity for folks to participate in public comments via Zoom. The council chose not to take that tack, but we've implemented other policies to try to get a little bit of control around the potential for that to occur. So I'm going to describe to you how this is going to work. For anybody that wants to speak during public comment, I'm going to ask you to identify yourself at the beginning of that public comment period. I'm going to identify everybody at that point in time. Once the identification process has occurred, I'm going to cut it off, and only those folks that were identified will be able to speak. Then we will determine how much time is allocated towards public comment. So with that, we're doing public comment for the 211 presentation only. This isn't general public comment. This is only the 211 presentation. So for anybody that wants to speak on this item, please identify yourself in the chamber by either raising your hand. I see you, Lorna. Or if you want to stand up to the side behind the podium. Did you want to speak on this item? Okay, so we have only one in the chamber. Anybody else want to speak on this one? On the 211 presentation? Okay, I'm going to check online real quick. I'm going to do a countdown to 5 for you to use the raise hand function to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we have 2. All right, so we'll go ahead and start in the chamber, and I'll ask you, Lorna, if you want to step up. Yeah, please.
Good evening, Lorna Moffett. I've called 211 about 2 times trying to help the homeless when I see them on the street. And all I got was a recording. I didn't get a live person to help. And in this situation, the person was a crippled man. He was dying at the wharf. And he was in a wheelchair and partially crippled. And people were passing by and he was shivering so badly. And I said, can I help you? And I said, where are you going to sleep tonight? And he said, over in the corner. And I dialed that number and there was no one to answer. So I just want you to know that I really appreciate what you're doing, but perhaps you could make it so that maybe, like you say, there's not enough staff. And that's a real problem. So if they could have more funding to answer the phone 24/7, I think that would help, right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lorna. Right, and we'll go online.
First, I'll call on Esther.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to echo the thanks to the United Way from the community as a whole. They've done tremendous work to help us, and the pandemic was really how we were able to maximize the partnership. For the newer council members who probably don't know, but at the beginning of the pandemic, I worked with city staff and suggested to them that we go to the United Way to use 211. And Katie and her team have always been very, very supportive of renter issues. And my early advocacy was acknowledged by them, which was really, really nice, but they have been the ones that have really helped us raise the conversation to address the constant rent issue. Because we keep talking about housing, but the people who are calling 211 are not the people who are waiting for houses to be built that are going to be bought at market rate. They're the people who are homeless or about to become homeless, and they're the ones that can, benefit from calling 211. I'll also point out that the programs that are being taken over, these people who call in are normally taken to, are funded by CDBG or other federal funds that have limited the number of people who can qualify for them. So when we started seeing a lot of that, especially during the pandemic, that was the main impetus for us to create our own rental assistance program in the city of Monterey, because many people were not able to qualify for the programs that 211 was referring them to. So I want to thank Katie and United Way for helping us confirm that, to the point that now we have potential help for everybody. I also want to thank them for doing what they call the cost measure analysis to show what the reality is of the cost of living here, not what the federal or the state government says that it should be the average costs of living here and whatnot. So those of you that have not looked at that analysis, I strongly urge you to, because it is the reality of what it costs to live here. And they did a great job in isolating the differences in what we really need to focus on for all income levels, not just super low and low income. So thank you to United Way for that, and for all the future partnerships that I continue to have with them, especially Katie. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Mr. Glenzer.
Hi there. This will be short and sweet. I just want to say that I'm wearing my hat right now, because some of you know that I wear various hats. I'm speaking here as president of the board of Gathering for Women. And that's my only thing that I'm trying to communicate at this point. And I just really want to thank Katie for the presentation and the work that you've done. And the only thing I want to say is, Katie really, Katie got a question from the council about, where do these people go? And Katie responded, I think, in a really accurate and truthful way to say the supply of what to do with homeless people or people about, to become homeless. I just want to say it's growing here locally. It's not going away. And we just want to, number one, thank the city of Monterey for, putting $250,000 into rental assistance, because most important thing for us is, as a NGO here focusing on homeless and precariously housed women, the best thing would happen is we're not necessary. I really hope that happens. But the thing about supply is just really, I know everybody knows this, I just want to reiterate it in public. The thing about supply, organizations like Katie's or organizations like ours, and there's other organizations in the ecosystem that all try to help people navigate all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's about supply, really is. And just wanted to make a public statement about that. Thank you.
All righty, we'll go ahead and close public comment. I just want to reemphasize the point that that Kent just ended on, and Katie, I know that you know this all too well, but housing is a huge issue here, and the supply side of the conversation is something that is truly an issue that we're trying to focus on the local level. And I think that this council can agree that we've made a lot of strides in trying to make efforts of addressing that, albeit without much water supply and the issues as it exists with the cease and desist order. But we just really appreciate your partnership in doing what we can do at the local level to really try to address issues that are facing people on the ground here. So thanks again for coming for the presentation today, and we look forward to you the next time you come. Thanks, Katie. All righty, and with that, we will go to general public comments. So this is for items that are not on today's agenda. So if you want to make a comment for an item that's not on today's agenda, I ask that you either stand by the podium, and what might be easier, because I imagine there's a lot of folks here that want to speak for public comment, is if you are able and willing, if you could stand up in line to the left of the podium, that would be helpful. So I'll give folks a second to do that. Let me just jump online real quick and do a countdown for folks to use the raise hand function to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have 2 folks online. I'll give folks another second here to stand if they're able and willing. We'll give folks a second to stand if you want to stand. Okay, so for those that aren't standing and you want to speak, please identify yourself by raising your hand. So I don't see any hands up. So am I missing somebody? Is there anybody that's sitting right now that wants to speak? Okay, so how many do we have in line? Sir, are you in line here? He wants to speak? Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have 11 in the chamber. Did you count that? That's what I see. Just want to make sure we get the number right. We got 11. Okay, so we have 11, 2 online. Can somebody do math for me?
13.
Okay, so we're going to give everybody 2 minutes. Is council in agreement with that?
26 minutes.
Okay, so we're going to extend, we usually allocate 15 minutes for public comment. We're going to extend it a little bit to allow folks to have 2 minutes to speak. So we'll go ahead and start in the chamber.
I hope we can zoom to 3 minutes so that I don't have to go to court over these matters of free speech. My name is Steve Lightfoot, and I'm the guy with the LennonMurderTruth.com van. And I'm trying to get people to support my expose. I've discovered the killer's face, name, and letter to the editor linking himself to Reagan, printed before the murder. Basically, I found coded messages in the headlines in Time and Newsweek all about what they did to John Lennon. And I was at Carmel Valley Mouth today singing, and I was breaking down people's bitterness. And I've become bitter myself, having to wrestle with humanity for the last 40 years over this matter. And it's people's bitterness that I'm up against, because Stephen King did a sadistic thing when he killed John Lennon. He made us masochists. It's bad enough that we are money-grubbing backstabbers to do what we do in our capitalistic system, but bitterness is one of the things I'm up against. Another thing I want to say is this. I demonstrate every first and second Sunday downtown Monterey and Alvarado Street, and I will be moving some demonstrations to Santa Cruz at 12 o'clock. And I want to speak about this Jewish Hamas situation. The Jews are trying to make laws that prohibit us from saying that Israel is a white racist state. It is exactly a white racist state. More than any other gene pool in the world, the Jews want to maintain their purity. They only mate with Jews. They do best business with Jews. That's one reason why they have some inbred traits like big noses, bad vision, and bald heads. They also have a skewed perspective of the human race. They are out to do unto the world what the world did to the Jews. We've got to remember that, like the Berlin Wall, Israel too will fall. They were both big mistakes we made.
I worked so hard to get this to 3 minutes, and that's what it is. I love Karen Brown, 671 Alice Street, for former City of Monterey employee, 25 years. I love that my city recognizes and appreciates our past, and now as we plan a new project on Dutra Street, we have an opportunity to do that again while taking steps toward recognizing mistakes made by previous staff and council in the 1950s to Indigenous people who lived on or near the 600 block of Dutra. Back then, Monterey wanted to build new fire and police stations and parking lots, so our city, with the support of the school district and the county, destroyed a vibrant neighborhood, a cultural community, an Indigenous village, really. There, Native people from nearby joined residents for celebration and caring. Their traditions were enjoyed and passed down: ceremonies, singing, dancing, story and history telling. Plants for medicine and food were gathered along Hartnell Creek. In this neighborhood, there lived consultants to anthropologists, veterans, and builders of Monterey. And then the city called the situation urgent, limited communication and opportunities for input. Compensation was slight, the houses were condemned, and compassion was lacking. City leaders seem to embrace a version of California history, popular still today, that took Indigenous assimilation, even elimination, for granted. They didn't see that their current actions or lack of action was as a part of history, but we can't. Following discussions with tribal leaders, like some gathered here today, recognition, reparation of the decimation of Dutra Street could include agendizing this topic, public apology, return of nearby land, renewal of some rights to key locations, naming or renaming of buildings, plaques.
Karen, sorry, I have
path
to
of history.
cut you off because if I don't do it if I do it for you and I don't do it for other folks, it's not
And
fair.
a number of people are from the tribal history.
Karen, perfect. I apologize. I really have to allow folks to speak in the limited time frame that we have available. But you can follow up with us by sending us email. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Alrighty, sir.
Yeah, hello. My name is Rudy Rosales. I'm a tribal leader of the Esselen Nation in Monterey. I'm an indigenous person in Monterey County. My family goes back 3,500 years. I want you guys to remember that, 3,500 years. We were here introducing all of you. Behind me, I have a tribal person, 95 years old, lived on Dutra Street, 95 years old. And I just want the city of Monterey to know that Dutra Street's a very important street, and you guys should know that, and you guys should help preserve it, which you haven't. Anyway, I've given each one of you a copy of this, and it tells you about the tribe and what we're doing and who we are. But you know, I can't emphasize the fact about how Dutra Street is an important street. John Steinbeck, when I was a kid, used to come down to Dutra Street, talk to my dad, talk to my uncles. We had tribal meetings down there with families. We had the Garcia family, the Dutra family, Espinosa family. All the families met down there. It was like a meeting place. Anyway, we lived the last house on Dutra Street by the wooden bridge, and it was a great neighborhood. And I would just like people to know that, you know, the fire station, the police department are where my friends, neighbors, and relatives lived. And you people should know that. And we weren't asked to leave. We were told to leave. So, you know, if you get a story straight, get it straight. We were told to leave, not asked to leave. And people on Dutra Street were given the lowest amount for their property. I think my dad only got $500. And, you know, it's just amazing. But anyway, I just want you to know, and we're all proud people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll figure it out.
I'm Joni Caldwell. I live at 29 Portola Avenue in Monterey. And you have the report in front of you. It's an incredibly scholarly piece. I hope that somehow the city of Monterey will use it and use it wisely to make reparations to the indigenous people that lived here. And you have a variety of ways to do that. A public apology, a statement supporting the ocean application for federal recognition, return of the new by piece of land, renewal of some rights to those places, naming or renaming buildings or other spaces, a plaque on the corner or in or on new buildings, a series of signs like those along Cannery Row, a permanent educational display of cultural items, photos and maps. And I'll stop here. I think, do you want me to?
Give more time.
Oh, okay. A permanent educational display of cultural items, photos, and maps, recognition as a city, national, and state historical site, preparation of reports on other nearby areas to acknowledge the role of Native Americans in a continuing history of Monterey, including cultural monitors for all upcoming projects, looking for 20th century historical as well as archaeological artifacts. And I think the really big one is to acknowledge the ocean folks with national recognition as a tribe.
Good afternoon. My name's Ann Jacobson, and I live in Monterey. And I've had the pleasure, the eye-opening pleasure of reading Karen's incredibly well-researched report that provides so much history that I've lived in Monterey for 41 years now that I never knew. And it just seems so timely for our city to take time to better understand and acknowledge what happened and to follow up on some of Karen's wonderful recommendations for possible making amends and just increasing people's awareness. And in particular, I guess I would like to see this become more of an official agenda item on the city council so that it could be more fully discussed and, you know, some kind of plan of action maybe decided upon as we are looking at these projects in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. City Manager, PK Diffenboss, Superintendent, Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. Just want to come and say thank you to the city for helping us do a parade to honor the Division IV state champions of Monterey High School. Thank you to the police department and to the fire department. I know it seems maybe like a little thing, but this is a memory that's going to last a lifetime for all those students who were up on the fire truck. Don't worry, I didn't call your insurance carrier on that. Just want to, again, just say thank you to the city. You've always been partners with us, highlighting our kids, supporting our kids, and making this happen, dedicating the resources, made it very special. So just want to just say appreciation. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Saw you there. It was a great day for our kids. So thanks so much.
Does he have enough time left do you have members of the team that are here? No?
Oh, I don't think so.
No, nobody showed up. Okay, so go Doors.
They came to the last one, I believe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or a previous one, but yes, go Doors.
Yeah.
Thanks, PK.
Lorna Moffett. I'm asking everyone in this room to stop eating fish. Billions of people are eating fish and our oceans are dying and our fish are not able to regenerate themselves. And in our own Monterey Bay, the Monterey Fishing Trust made a report to you that there just isn't any fish. And yet I see trawlers out there and I see everyone guzzling down cheap fish like there's no tomorrow. And the fish, they eat the phytoplankton. And when they don't eat the phytoplankton falls to the ocean floor and it turns into a sulfuric acid. And so it's called lethal seas. And the lethal seas are spreading all over the planet. And we have our own problem here. The pelicans are starving to death. The SPCA their hands are full. So it's up to individuals that next time you want fish on the menu, and please subsidize the fishermen. Ask, please, all of you, write a letter to Congressman Panetta and ask them to subsidize the fishing industry. That's really important so that they have a livelihood to lean on in these lean times. It's our responsibility, every single one of us. Thank you so much.
Hi, so I just want to start this off by saying my family is half Jewish and I'm adopted, so I think I proved the first guy wrong just by being here. But on that topic though, because I am adopted, I've kind of felt owed to my family's culture to learn about Judaism and what's currently going on in the Middle East, particularly with the genocide against the Palestinians. And so with that, my name is Robin Fishman, by the way. I'm a student and I serve on Associated Students of Cal State Monterey Bay. I went to a lot of research over the history of what's happening in the Palestine area, and it's abhorrent to see what our government has been complicit to. And I really hope that our city of Monterey will listen to student voices and to especially the people who do have connections to that area to discuss possible divestment and also calling on for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, as well as condemning the war crimes that Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu have committed, because it's been really horrible. Drafting the resolution the Associated Students has passed, because we've already started the divestment process at our student government. The things I read and the things I watched, like in preparation of writing that resolution, it's a 6-page resolution, and we'll be sending it to you guys on, and we'll talk more about that. But it's been horrible to read all the stuff and to watch everything of children dying, innocent people dying, and people who are just trying to help being killed and laughed at by the IDF. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Ana Munoz, and I currently serve as a university student at Monterey Bay, as well as a current student president of Associated Students. Students have been constantly at the forefront and calling out injustices, and I am here today with the Associated Students of CSU Monterey Bay, asking the City Council to draft and pass a resolution to support an immediate ceasefire. I ask that you care about the Palestinian people and place pressure on our government to be on the right side of history, the side of humanity. We will not be silent, and will continue to work at our university to make sure we will be the voice for the people of Palestine and the people of Gaza. We cannot do this alone, and we need the community support. On April 22nd, the Associated Students at Monterey Bay passed a resolution condemning human rights violation, a call for immediate permanent ceasefire, and reaffirming student freedom expression. Within this resolution, we resolve the Associated Students of California State University, Monterey Bay, urge the City of Monterey, Pacific Grove, City of Carmel, City of Seaside, City of Sun City, and City of Salinas in calling for a permanent ceasefire on the Gaza Strip. This is why we're here today, to continue the conversation of the genocide that is currently happening on the Gaza Strip. Just this week, Israel had invaded the city of Rafah, which is currently a humanitarian nightmare. And we cannot continue to disregard the children, women, and families who are in the midst of this crisis. It is crucial to acknowledge that this is not about taking a political side, as the City Council is here to represent all sides of our community members, regardless of political belief, but acknowledging the rights of people and communities to exist and have sovereignty here and abroad. We know that this is difficult to get conversations to happen at the state level, which is why we're here to speak to our local government. We are sure that you became elected officials because you wanted to help our community, and by including a ceasefire in the next agenda so our community can join in on this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jean Rash, Monterey Vista. I wanted to thank Councilmember Garcia for sponsoring the Monterey undergrounding presentation that was done at Kona on April 29th. It was very successful and it was a whole lot of fun. One of the number one questions, which is why I'm really here, is where are we at with the North Fremont undergrounding project? And I was hoping maybe we could agendize that and update the community. We, as you know, we have $4.5 million of credits in the PG&E bank for that project. But we don't want to get we don't want to get any further behind on it than we already are. It took Steve Wittry a long time to get through the first stage of initiation and planning. That was supposed to take 3 to 12 months and it took years. This next phase, PG&E estimates 6 to 18 months on the engineering and design phase. And the ordinance for North Fremont was signed August of 2020. So we're pushing 4 years on that. So by the math, it doesn't look really great. We don't want to lose those credits that end in 2033 and then just disappear. It would be nice if the community that's concerned about this and the council who has expressed support for an undergrounding plan could give us an update that could be either passed around or agendized so people who care about this would know it's coming. Thank you.
Could you share that with us, Jean, by the way? Could you email that to us? Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Williamson and council members and city staff. My name is Dr. Philip Laverty. I'm a resident of Carmel Valley. I'm a cultural and linguistic anthropologist that did my doctoral research with the Ohlone, Costanoan, and Esselen Nation with other Esselen and Southern Ohlone tribal members and individuals. I wanted to thank Karen Brown for submitting her report and spearheading this effort for some recognition of what transpired on the Dutra Street to the Dutra Street community. It was significant that there was a multi-family residential neighborhood in the heart of Monterey. This was critical to their continuity as a tribal community. The fact that the community was targeted and displaced through eminent domain was also a significant piece of their history. The face-to-face community was disrupted and it made it very difficult for them to continue as a tribal community. So it was a travesty of justice. And in addition to Chairman Rosales, there are other tribal members here who lived on Dutra Street. Perhaps you could raise your hands. At any rate, it had a dramatic effect on their ability to continue to function as a tribal community, though they have persisted. And I just simply wanted to respectfully add my voice to the request to consider some form of reparations in this regard and to potentially agendize this item so that it could be discussed further. Please consider me a resource if you have questions about the history of Indigenous people here in Monterey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, with that, we'll go to I think we have 2 public commenters online.
Yes, I'll call on our first speaker. This is a telephone caller. If you could please start speaking when you get a chance.
Yes, this is Nina Beatty. I support the tribal requests that have been made at the meeting. I was unable to attend the last meeting on the ALPR camera system. Not mentioned at the hearing are harassment and stalking risks from using ALPR. I was surprised Councilwoman Barber voted for this because civil rights advocates should be very wary of this new and powerful government tool. Harassment's been a problem here in Monterey without ALPR. In addition to the invasion of privacy, city officials, vendors, and others can gain access to the system for their own purposes, including the military with whom the city has close ties. ACLU's fact-based questions were effectively ignored. Officials claimed a periodic audit would be a safeguard. That's naive at best. Cyber experts can access the system and its data at any time on anyone in the city and then erase traces of their access so that an audit won't reveal their incursion. A suggestion to let ACLU at least participate was pushed aside, and police management resisted even the city attorney's review. So there's no accountability for ALPR surveillance and its uses. Why didn't this give the rest of the council pause? Who watches the watchers? Where we were urged to trust a very bad basis for relationship with such an unequal power dynamic. Secondly, the mayor and city manager commented at the last meeting on the conference they attended by an association of Pentagon supporting communities. City leadership is devoting more and more time and resources to promoting the Pentagon instead of running the city. This is a city, not a military base, and this carte blanche endorsement is at odds with the radioactive and microwave contamination from Naval Postgraduate School already, the Superfund site at Fort Ord, which has also damaged groundwater and causes cancer and other diseases, and the ongoing revelations of Pentagon contamination that toxifies other communities and regions and kills the ocean and marine life. The continued or expanded presence of the military branches here means more harm to Monterey to add to what is already occurring, and no accountability or ability of residents to stop it. Thank you.
Alrighty. I think we have one more. Okay.
And our last speaker is also a telephone caller. Go ahead, please. You'll need to dial *6 to unmute. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. Yes, I'm Brian Rosen. You know, I remember the days back in the day when we got 3 minutes and it would go late into the evening if necessary. They were so patient back in those days. And the public seems so disrespected nowadays. It would be wonderful if you would do a resolution against the horrible genocide that's going on over in Gaza. This ethnic cleansing has been going on since 1948. It's been just a really terrible thing when the extremists took a hold of the country while the different groups before then got along pretty well, Christians, Jews, Muslims. It's just horrific what's going on. And our leaders, our elected leaders, are supporting the genocide, voting for unconditional money for the genocide. They don't have to bomb hospitals. They don't have to dig mass graves. They don't have to kill aid workers. All of this is completely unnecessary and is only destabilizing the Middle East and destabilizing the world, which we're all connected with, and we're all one. And what we do to others, happens to us. The military-industrial complex, as Martin Luther King and Dwight Eisenhower warned us against, very dangerous. It tends to be the police and the military are praised no end by government, but it's not all black and white. Most police are nice, I think, and they're very nice, a lot of nice people, but a police state is a bad thing. And now you're taking weapons from the military, so the police will be even more powerful. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's dangerous. And what happens when you get a bad government and the police have all the military might and all the guns? You know, all these school shootings and horrible things that happen aren't just an accident. It has to do with our spiritual state, what we're doing to the planet, what we're doing to each other, what we're doing to other countries. They got really mad at Malcolm X when he said the chickens have come home to roost, when John F. Kennedy got us out.
That's your time. Thank you so much. Okay. So that's it for public comment. Thank you, everybody who participated. And just for folks' awareness, we're not responding to anything for comments that are general public comment, but feel free to follow up with this email. Thank you all so much for being here today. It makes me proud to see students coming out and participating in local government. So thank you for that. Alrighty, with that, we will go to our public hearing item number 19 on the agenda. I'm sorry, I apologize. Let me back up. It's the consent agenda. I understand that there's not been an item pulled by anybody on the council. I just want to do a quick check-in. Does anybody want to pull anything on the consent?
And don't need to pull it, but it's item number 7. I want to vote against it, so we'll note that.
Okay, perfect.
And there are 3 items that have been pulled by members of the public. We have items 13, 14, and 15, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we'll pull 13, 14, and 15. And anything else from the council? Okay. We'll take it out to the public. This is your opportunity to provide any comments on items that are on consent agenda except for 13, 14, and 15, or if you wish to pull another item. So I'll just do a check-in with everybody in the chamber. Anybody wish to speak on anything that's on the consent agenda? All right, I'm not seeing anybody. I see. Nope, we'll get to CDBG separately. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands in the chamber, so we'll go.
And Mr. Mayor, item 8 has been pulled as well by a member of the public.
8, 13, 14, and 15. Okay. We'll we'll check online and we'll do a countdown for folks to use the raise hand function to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there's nobody online, so there's no public comment for the consent agenda. So bring it back to the council for deliberation and into a motion. And so we looking at pulling 8, 13, 14, 15, and then registering no vote for Councilmember Smith.
7.
So I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 8, 13, 14, 15, and registering a no vote for Councilmember Smith on item 7.
Second.
All right, there's been seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. And with that, we will go to item number 8, which is to authorize an appropriation of $87,985.36 and approve the purchase of 4 police interceptor upfitting packages from LEHR EVS. Do we know who pulled this? Okay, maybe we can start with public comment. And then if we need to do a presentation, we can loop back around with staff. So let me open this up for public comment. Anybody in the chamber wish to speak on this item? We have 2 in the chamber. Anybody else? Okay, let's check online. You do a countdown to use the raise hand function to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have nobody online, so we'll go ahead and start in the chamber. And sir, why don't you go ahead and start us off since you request this to be pulled?
Hi, my name is Stan Williams. I'm 500 Ramona in Monterey. We just heard people speak about Dutra Street. We heard from the public school superintendent speaking about the basketball team, but we're talking about funding $87,000 worth of police upgrades. The Monterey Police Department, they have 24% of the city budget. There's another article, there's another piece of this consent about the Monterey Fire Department for close to $1 million. They have 25% of the city budget. And there's a lot of other things that we can do with those funds. We can hire driver's ed person, teacher for Monterey schools. We could make the Monterey Fitness Center. We could lower costs. We can give lifeguards to the beaches, but we could plant trees and fruit trees in the parks. We can do a lot of different things, but give more money to the police force. We need to think about priorities of helping the people of Monterey instead of giving it to these 2 departments. We need to spread it out so we could make the lives of the people of Monterey better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lorna Moffett. I'm very concerned about tree removal in this project and, repaving. Are there going to be any
Lorna, I
trees?
apologize, but there's no proposal to remove trees in this agenda item.
There's no what?
There's no proposal to remove trees in this agenda item.
So there are no trees that are going to be removed that you know of?
Correct. Not in this agenda item.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and with that, we'll bring it back to the council for discussion and deliberation. And I'll just kind of quickly share that I understand where you're coming from in regards to your concerns. But when we talk about making sure that we're taking care of our community in an equitable way, we need to make sure that all of our staff that do the service to protect our community have the resources that they need and not having a wheel fall off or having ineffective equipment that makes their job undoable. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve item number 8.
Second.
Is there any other discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on. I should have wrote this down.
13, 14, and 15.
Thank you. 13 is award 2 tree maintenance job order contracts 2024 for city projects in amount not to exceed $1 million, each to West Coast Arborist Inc. and to Topes Tree Service Inc. I think this is the one that you wanted to speak to. So we'll go ahead and go to the public on this item. Is there anybody in the chamber that wishes to speak on this item? I saw your hand, Lorna, on this one. Anybody else in the chamber? All right, I'll do a countdown for folks to use the raise hand function on Zoom to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have 2 online, so we'll go ahead and start in the chamber. Barney, go ahead.
We have 3 minutes now?
You do.
Okay. I'm very concerned that there's thousands of trees are being cut down by Monterey County. The Ryan Ranch, 600 and something for a medical building. You have the Fisherman's Wharf, 24 trees were cut down there that are over 100 years old. And each of those trees harbor a ton of CO2 a year. And they also harbor the deadly car pollutants that are destroying our brains, giving us Alzheimer's and dementia. And then they're chipped, and that releases all that pollution that those trees have taken in. So I would really like this project to make sure that they can't keep chipping like this. They just have to either contact a logging company and say, take these logs away, or let them lie in the forest, which is natural decaying process. But this chipping and cutting, hysterical cutting over, oh, this tree's diseased. It's diseased, but it recovers just like we do. And trees are our saviors right now. They're the only thing. If you're in a desert, imagine, where are you going to go? You're going to go to a tree, and it's going to be 10 degrees cooler. And so we're heating up the bay up to 12 degrees now, which is killing the fish. It's killing everything slowly, but it's doing it. And it's all about pavement and cars. And you have to consider the trees, the one savior we do have in this community. And to say there's no CEQA for this, every tree should be considered very, very carefully, especially the 100-year, the eucalyptus, the pines, the cypress that live up to 300 years. Those are our greenhouse gas protectors for this community. And we're chopping them down like they're enemies. And so please, I want you to deliberate that and make sure that they can't just keep chopping these trees down, because they are in the Parks Department too as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we'll take the 2 callers that we have online.
Ms. Beatty?
Yes, this is Nina Beatty. I see a huge sum of money being used in item number 13. And I want assurances that living trees will not be killed. I echo what Ms. Moffitt said about the amount of trees that have been killed in Monterey, and the benefits that trees provide, the living beings that they are, that are being ignored. And there are now areas in the world that are calling for the rights of nature, the rights of individual trees to live. And the amount of benefit that trees very selfishly for us provide in terms of climate, in terms of moisture, and in terms of temperature. So I want assurances that living trees will not be killed, that this contract is only for cutting down dead trees or trees that are leaning and in danger of falling over. Thank you.
Thank you. And the other caller is Mr. Rosen. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Brian Rosen here. I love the trees of Monterey, and a lot of people do, and I wish the city council had more appreciation for them, because I think if they did, all those marvelous, beautiful, ancient old trees in Fisherman's Wharf wouldn't have come down. And now it's a barren parking lot. I can't believe they did this to make room for a few more cars, where they have some garages that aren't even filled to capacity. A little tree takes 100 years or so to get so big. The trees are full of wildlife. They provide homes, habitat. Even eucalyptus trees can be covered with monarch butterflies. So it makes me very sad. this is just a microcosm of what's happening to this world, what humanity is doing to this world, destroying the world, the environment, overfishing, all the other things we're doing to this world, putting in surf busways when we could have a much more environmental rail. But I urge you to make sure that you don't approve any item that allows the cutting of trees with this money. The trees need to be given every due consideration, and they haven't been. And this is what I'm asking you. Very dangerous in the name of arborists are saying, oh, the tree's diseased. Well, people get better, trees get better. And so they give up on the trees, and they always come cut them down is the first choice. So I'm just urging you to protect the trees and don't allow more beautiful trees to be cut down, and don't allow more paving over of land which takes down trees. Thank you very much.
Okay. And with that, we'll bring it back to the council. Hans, if I could ask you quickly, if you could provide just a quick overview around what the process is that I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot here too, or if somebody on staff could help with the processes that we follow in order to decide if a tree is cut.
Let me summarize it the following way. Arborists are not in the business of cutting down trees. Arborists are in the business of preserving trees. And from time to time, you, the council, have neighbors complaining that our arborists are not taking down trees that they think need to be taken down because, again, the main focus of our city arborists are to preserve trees. Unfortunately, there are terminal illnesses for humans, and there are terminal illnesses for trees, and arborists are looking at that as well. Does the tree have a chance? Does the tree is terminal ill, meaning is it eroded in its core and falls over? Or is there something we can do? We have an oak tree in front of our office that we really try to rescue through interventions and treatments to preserve trees. So it's a false narrative that one of the callers presented there, that the arborists go out there to chop down trees. Quite the opposite is true. This funding is for tree maintenance, first and foremost. Trees, a healthy urban forest has to be treated correctly, has to be trimmed regularly to provide healthy trees and to ensure that the oxygen that they produce continue to be there. And yes, there have to be trees that have to be taken down. Sometimes these are signature trees. A couple of years ago, I think 8, 9, 10 years ago, Middlebury took down the tree that Steinbeck was describing in one of his novels. And that's an unfortunate event, but that was done after almost 6 years of 3 different arborists trying to rescue trees. So again, I blatantly state that we are not in the business of taking trees down willy-nilly. There's an analysis going into that. Those 2 tree contracts in front of you sound like a lot of money, but we also have a lot of trees that we have to remove that are already fallen down, and they have to be taken out of the habitat. And it includes also money to, we also have included money in our other budget to reforest in those areas where necessary. So I hope that summarizes that.
Thank you, City Manager. I appreciate the quick explanation there. I think it's appropriate. This is regular course of business. And I will add to that, the city of Monterey has been designated as a Tree City USA. It's not an end all be all. This is not to say that we can't do things better and we can't continue to have the conversation. The fact of the matter, though, is today is the approval of these contracts and not deciding which trees are to be cut down or not. So for that matter, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion?
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a reminder that there's a deep set of policies behind the action as our city managers related. And also one of the actions that I think is a very positive is if a tree is deemed to be needing to be removed because it's diseased or threatening, buildings or things like that. When the tree is taken out, the homeowner is required to replace that tree ×2. So we recognize the value of trees, but we also have to recognize we live among the trees that reach certain points in their life that sometimes it threatens structures. And so they have to be trimmed and sometimes they have to be replaced. But there are other younger trees behind it, and have been that way for years. So we have a healthy tree inventory in the city of Monterey, but from time to time, we do have storms that take down trees. We have diseases that take out trees. And for sometimes, as sad as it is, it's the right thing to do to rescue the tree when it's not going to survive. So with that, I'm going to support this.
Councilmember Smith, anybody else? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll go on to item number 14, which is to award 2 tree maintenance job order contracts 2024 for intergovernmental support agreement projects in the amount of not to exceed $1 million, each to West Coast Arborists and Topes Trees. And with that, I believe you wanted to pull this one as well, Ms. Moffitt? Okay, so we'll go ahead and take it out to the public. Anybody in the chamber wish to speak on this item? I'm assuming, Ms. Moffitt, do you want to speak on this item? Okay, anybody else in the chamber want to speak on this item? All right, so we have 1 in the chamber. We'll check online. I'll do the countdown to use the raise hand function to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have 2 online.
So my question is, what is tree maintenance? And when you cut down 24 huge 100-year-old trees at Fisherman's Wharf that were very, very healthy, that is not, it is not Monterey being good to trees. So Hans, I have to correct you. That was a deplorable situation, and it breaks my heart to this day. And I'm afraid that under the guise of saying, oh, we only cut diseased and dying trees, and we're the, we acknowledge that we plant young ones. Young ones take 100 years to grow, and we don't have 100 years. We've got a greenhouse gas problem, and trees are the one thing that can take it out. We don't have the machines that they talk about that are going to suck a ton of carbon out of the atmosphere. So is this contract going to, under the guise of maintenance, also do what tragically happened at Fisherman's Wharf, and also the beautiful little cypress tree that was along the walkway overlooking the bay? That was cut down. They said there was termites underneath there. That was a healthy, beautiful tree, 100-year-old tree. It was there 35 years ago. All trees have termites underneath them. So, I just think there's too much excuse. And then also I'd like you to address the chipping problem, because there's an enormous amount of pollution that's coming along with those chippers and noise, and then piles of these chips all over the place. That's all part of this maintenance and money. And I'd like you to address that issue, because it's so very, very vital that you stop this chipping. It's causing all kinds of dementia and Alzheimer's. We're scratching our head wondering where it's coming from. Well, they've proved that it's coming from the cars. It's magnetites, little metal particles, nano-sized, that are destroying our brains. And this is a real good symptom of it. The very thing that can save us, we're chopping down. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moffitt. We'll go ahead and go online to our 2 callers.
Ms. Beatty, go ahead, please.
Yes, this is Nina Beatty again. This particular contract is for an intergovernmental support agreement, which I'm gathering is for the military installations in and around Monterey. And again, I want assurances that living trees will not be killed. This is only for dead trees. I'm particularly alarmed at what the Navy is doing to the historic grove, the historic forest on Del Monte Avenue. And they're doing it tree by tree. They lied that they were not doing it, but tree by tree, they're slowly winkling out all the beautiful old eucalyptus trees. As Ms. Moffitt and I have spoken about in the past, eucalyptus trees are almost unique in the amount of water that they sequester in their trunks, and that as in Angel Island, they prove to be fire breaks rather than fire sources, because they can block flames because of the high water content of their trunks. But these trees are being killed by the Navy, and this is, it's absolutely immoral. these trees that are powerful medicine, that are powerful people, maybe that's what the Navy's afraid of. I'm sure that they're also worried that the signals from their 5G tower, their very toxic 5G tower on the beach, may not get as easily to their facilities within the grounds of Neil Postgraduate School. And so to destroy these trees, as they have destroyed so many trees worldwide and destroyed so many species worldwide, this is just the local version of what the Navy does historically, which is destroy nature. All the hawks and the herons and the hummingbirds and the butterflies that rely on that grove of trees for food and for habitat, it's slowly being taken out from under them. So the call to save the trees or to save the Earth Day sort of proclamations are hollow when the very beings that are sustaining the Earth, like the eucalyptus trees and the other trees in and around the military facilities, which are vulnerable to all the toxins that the military are releasing. Any proclamation of being pro-trees is just absolutely hollow. These trees are as native or more native than many of us in the room. And they need to be saved, and the Navy needs to be stopped from doing any more damage to the Monterey Peninsula than they've already done, and the Army as well. Thank you.
Mr. Rosen, you can go ahead, please.
Hello, Brian Rosen here. I'd like to quote George Orwell. He said, "In a world of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." Well, they're talking about taking down trees that are dangerous to people. And yet all these beautiful trees in Fisherman's Wharf were taken down, and which were healthy and well and big, because either they wanted more parking spaces or they wanted to make it easier to clean the parking lot. Now, my niece's ex-husband was an arborist, and he would cut down trees. And there's also bias too. And arborists are not always right. You know, and neither are doctors. Arborists may be doctors of trees. They may fancy them to be that way, themselves to be that way, but they make mistakes. A veterinarian, my dog had absolutely no hope, and then they were amazed. He had a miraculous recovery, whether it was due to this or that or spiritual healing, it's hard to say. But there needs to be more opinions given. An arborist is human. They make mistakes, and they may be wrong. We need to give the trees every benefit of the doubt. People have biases, and people, animals, and trees recover. So I just think that they've gone, I don't know these arborists, they seem well-meaning, but I don't know. I'm easily fooled by people, and you may be too, but I give every tree the benefit of the doubt. They may be deceiving themselves, and they may have a strong bias in certain cases, but then the tree would recover, and the tree is then gone, and we're all poorer for it. So please have them explain why they took them down in Fisherman's Wharf. Were they diseased? I don't think so, but I'd like to have that addressed by somebody, and thank you very, very much.
Okay, and so with that, we'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the council. I will say that discussing the trees on the wharf isn't relevant towards the agenda item, as this has to do with the intergovernment support agreement. So it also has nothing to do with the Navy. The IGSA is with the Army, and they're funding it. And so for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That will go to item number 15, authorize city manager to execute a purchase agreement with the Golden State Fire Apparatus for one Type 1 replacement fire engine at a cost not to exceed $980,000 and $980,439 for the purchase and utilize financing via the Bank of America Public Capital Corporation Master Agreement lease agreement for this purchase. Who pulled this item? All right, why don't we go to public comment, and we can start with you, sir, so we can get a good sense of what the ask is here. And so with that, let me just go ahead and get a test to see Who wants to speak on this item in the chamber? We have one person in the chamber that wants to speak to this item. All right, so one person in the chamber. We'll check online. We'll do a countdown for the raise hand function to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have nobody online. So sir, why don't you go ahead?
Stan Williams again, 500 Ramona, Monterey. I spoke earlier about priorities. This is the same sort of issue that bringing up. I'm also a public sector union representative, so I know public sector workers. I've done it for over 10 years. I think that we should. My motion would be to hold this off for another year. Let's look at other things that we can do to assist the people of Monterey rather than purchasing a fire truck. Pretty sure that the Monterey Fire, they might need vehicles, but the people of Monterey, they need help. There's $250,000 that was passed for to help with housing. Why don't we move some of that over to help people with housing? There's a lot of things that we can do with public funds that would actually stop the fire from coming out. They are normally called on situations where people are hurt or injured. Some of them might be food access. Things might be solvable through different programs that could be raised by the city. So I'm calling to hold off for another year, have the over $980,000 be put on next year's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and close public comment. I was at an event recently on a panel discussion with students in grade school, and it was law day. And one of the questions that was asked by a student was, what would you do if you had unlimited amount of money? And we all kind of chuckled a little bit because this all becomes a lot easier if there was unlimited funding available. So it really does come down to prioritization. And it's the basics. We have to do the basics. And we can't have our fire department and our firefighters trying to go stop a fire or save somebody's life because we decided not to purchase a new fire truck. We just can't do that. We have to be good public stewards of our dollars. I really wish that we could do all the things that you stated. I'm in full support of those, but we have to prioritize the bare basics here in order to have regular business operations within the city of Monterey that every single resident of the city of Monterey expects. If you had a fire at your house, you would want the fire department there as soon as possible. So I appreciate your public comments and the need for us to have a deeper conversation around how to best utilize the funds. But for the reasons as I expressed, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, apologize.
Something.
Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to add to Mr. Williams' response that, we've got issues with our fire equipment where sometimes it breaks down. It makes it really difficult for our firefighters to do the job that we expect them to do. So I appreciate you scrutinizing and looking at what we're spending and our priorities. I think that's a healthy and wise thing to do. But this is a really important need of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
Just a
Yep,
quick-
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And you reminded me of something that if we own vehicles in our own home, we know that there's a time that vehicle has to be repaired or replaced. And I appreciate the fact that our fleet management policy with leadership in the fire department milks every last mile out of their primary engine as well as their secondary engine that's the backup. So the fact that we've got a secondary vehicle that's being used quite frequently, that's well past its time. It's even older than me, and that's old. So you get to a point where this guy can't do what I used to be able to do when I was younger. That vehicle, the engine, it's beautiful. We loved it, but it's timed out. And you can't drive the old horse into the ground when you have to get someplace, when the community needs the help. If you don't have an apparatus that can get the firefighters, as the mayor has said, to the location, and do that efficiently for the community to receive the help they need, then we're not doing our job. And this is a much needed piece of equipment, and the secondary unit has been milked to the point where it cannot wait any longer. This is a primary vehicle that needs to be ordered, and it won't be online for a couple of years. So if we're not ahead of the ordering, it takes nearly 2 years to acquire a fire apparatus from the manufacturer. So now is the time, so we reap the benefits in 2 years to be able to replace the old horses that can't be driven anymore. So, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. With that, we'll go to our public hearing item now. Item number 19, adopt 2024-2025 annual action plan for community development block grant, also known as CDBG funds, and authorize submittal to U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And with that, I'll pass it to Hans for staff.
Yeah, and I super fast punted over to Anastasia.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the action plan for community development block grant funds. I just wanted to point out that this is the 5th year. We're getting into the last year of a 5-year planning cycle for CDBG funding. So I'm looking forward to the spring or next year when we come up with a new plan for the next 5 years. So the community development block grant program is in a 5-year cycle. So this is the very last year, and I'll move forward with the presentation. Yeah, okay, thanks. So the primary objectives of community development block grants mainly are to benefit low and moderate income people, address conditions of slum and blight, and meet an urgent need. The CDBG action plan priorities that were part of this 5-year planning process, this consolidated plan where you get your annual action plans, which is where we're at right now. For the city of Monterey, our public service grant programs, public facilities and infrastructure, housing and planning and administration. So our public services budget could be slightly lowered. This was described more in your staff report, depending on the resources we get. So Monterey is a little bit different than any other jurisdiction I've ever done community development block grant funding with. And the main reason is we receive most of our funds through program income through former urban renewal that was a program prior to CDBG, which is now in its 50th year at the congressional level. So we get this program income through several resources. We also utilize our inclusionary housing units. We purchase and resell those units with CDBG dollars. And so that's where we usually get a lot of this program income, which gives the city a more robust community development block grant program, but it also is subject to increases and decreases of this program income and also the federal budget. And at the time of this report, I did not have the official federal budget, but today, this morning, we did receive our grant funding, and it was about $251,000 in our entitlement funding that comes directly from federal resources, and the rest is this program income. So our subrecipients may, depending on how we do with the end of the fiscal year, we may not get as much funding for program income, and I may have to reduce the budget, the final amount that those public service activities receive. So we do have, again, based on this program income situation, the tier 1 and tier 2. So we have VTC did submit an application for their solar panels on some of their units that are considered transitional housing. And then we always have a backup project for city infrastructure. And so those are the 2 projects that we hope to be able to accomplish. We also have the continued important housing opportunities programs in the consolidated plan that include health and safety, grants and rehabilitation, and this purchase and resale program. This budget is estimated at $715,000. You can kind of see at a glance with this slide where all of the where all the funding will go. And this is sort of a caveat about what I discussed with the increases or decreases. The budget you see right now is dependent on this program income. And we may need to rework the budget a little bit for any program income increases or decreases. This has been the schedule. This is a big process every year to complete the CDBG action plan. We begin earlier than November, pretty much. We're starting to think about it even now. And we release a NOFA to the public on November 1st. And the day I started at the city of Monterey. And then, then we held a grant application workshop on November 15th. And we had presentations from all of the committees, and we had a committee that consisted of PD, housing, and some consultants that have been working for the city for years to look at the different applications and make funding recommendations, which is what you see in your packet tonight. And then we went in front of the Planning Commission on April 9th. They also approved the recommendation to move it forward to you, the City Council, for your final approval. And we plan on submitting this action plan to HUD by May 15th. So my recommendation is to conduct the public hearing and adopt a resolution so that we staff can submit this action plan to HUD on time. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the council if you have questions, if you're okay with maybe deferring those until after public comment. Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you, Anastasia, for the presentation. Appreciate you and glad that we got you on board in time to do this whole process for us. So, all right, with that, I'll open it up to the public. So anybody in the chamber wish to speak on this item? I believe there's a gentleman over here. Okay. Anybody else want to speak on this item? So we have two. Anybody else? All right, so we have two in the chamber. We'll go ahead and check online. I'll do a countdown for folks to use the raise hand function on Zoom to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have nobody online, so we'll go ahead and start in the chamber.
Thank you. My name is Thomas Lampier. I'm from the Veteran Transition Center. I want to thank everybody that's been involved with this whole process of CDBG, but more importantly, convey to you how important solar panels, which I never thought would be that important for a veteran, even being a veteran myself, till I experienced some of the stuff in my life. I just want you to picture for a second a veteran who's having nightmares at night, and he's got those sweats and those terrors going on, and he opens up his eyes, but all he still sees is that experience. And so he searches for a light switch and goes to turn it on so he can erase that memory, and nothing happens. There's no power. Or the veteran who relies on a medical device to sustain himself or to transport himself, and there's no power. Solar panels is something that has become essential for veterans to deal with their disabilities in life, whether it's physical or mental. And even more importantly, putting solar panels on our units at the Veteran Transition Center, that's a 25 to 30-year investment of sustainable housing. The PIP count in Monterey County, and specifically in Monterey right now, according to the federal government, is 144 homeless veterans. And with the transit nature of veterans, that number increases almost every year. It's a never-ending process. And for a disabled veteran who's homeless, having a place to go where the anxiety of having their medical and mental needs addressed, that's precious. And I can tell you, as being a homeless veteran myself, how important power is, especially for my own mental health. And so your support of passing through this CDBG funding, it's not just a benefit for veterans, it's also a benefit to the community, especially for our first responders who are here, who have to address homeless encampments where fires start, incidents happen, putting veterans in a safe residence where they're not going to make that call. They're relying on our public servants to come and assist them. It's priceless. And it's also an investment into our environment. It's renewable energy. And so we're going to decrease our carbon footprint at the Veteran Transition Center, do our part to get California into a greener environment, less relying upon traditional sources of energy. And so I thank you for your support.
We want to thank you for your service, sir, and your continued work with the Veterans Transition Center.
Hello, my name is Lynn Young. I'm the Executive Director of the Josephine Kearns Pool, which is also called Kearns Adaptive Aquatics. And thank you, Mayor, for coming to our 50th honoring celebration, which we had this last year. And out of that 50 years, the City of Monterey has been a steadfast partner in helping us serve people with disabilities of all ages. I was telling the mayor, our youngest is 3 months old and our eldest is 103. So we get to see all kinds of people in the pool and watch them really improve their health and mobility. The way that this fits into CDBG, and I'm sure many of you who have helped us before understand that when people are in better health, when they have better mobility, they are able to remain independent in their homes, have less caregiving, and less costs to the larger community in terms of hospitalization and other services that they're going to need because they're able to remain more independent. This last year, we celebrated our 50th anniversary by putting out a little 2-minute video. And I'd like to pass these around. And during those 2 minutes, the people who come to the pool actually come tell their story about why they come to the pool, which is probably more important than me standing up here and telling you a lot of statistics. But just very briefly, what you did provide last year was 600 sessions for people with disabilities. And that's about 20% of what it costs to provide the services, but it's a very important 20% to us. And so we want to thank you for all your many years of support and ask you to continue to help the people in our community with disabilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, what you all continue to do for our community. All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the council. Who wants to start us off? Dr. Barber.
First, I'm really happy to see all the agencies that are being helped with this. So I have, I guess, 2 questions. First, I know you said something about the budget may need to be reduced if the money is decreased of what you're thinking that you will receive. So I'm wondering when you would know and what process you would use and seeing how the agencies are being dispersed. The money is being dispersed to the agencies.
Thank you, Dr. Barber. So the scenario that you have in your packet tonight is based on my projections, looking at the finances and what we've brought in. So far in program income, we receive that program income quarterly. And so that is currently my projection. I did a 43% decrease across the board on every agency that receives funding. So it's fair to honor what the committee recommended for funding allocations. I will say that CDBG is a very intensive program to run for both the public service agencies and for the city staff. So I think being fair and trying to reduce equally is honoring what the funding committee recommended. So that's how we will go forward with it. The allocation for CDBG that came out today from the federal government was $251,522. I projected when we started this process $18,478 reduction in the $270,000 that I had projected in the original budget. So we may not get as much program income, and we obviously will receive $18,478 less than we had projected beginning this cycle. So anyway, those are probably looking like the amounts, but we'll keep to the same reduction for each agency if that's what you'd like.
Okay, great. Thank you. My second question is, I was just curious, with the lines on aging and CASA, I noted that, and I understand we're not able to give everybody what they're requesting, but I noted that the amount that they requested were $20,000 respectively, and that the award for 23-24 was basically half of that, 13,000 and 10,000 respectively. And for 24-25, the recommendation is less than what they received during that time, still maybe a little less than half of what their request was. But I also noticed that their income projection was one of the least amounts on the chart. So I was just curious as to how they came to that conclusion with the amount and what their income that they're asking for and what they need. Because I know with CASA being for foster care, and of course with the aging, the different needs that may be there. I was just curious about that.
Sure, Dr. Barber. I was not part of that committee that day that determined the funding recommendations, so I can't really answer that question. But it was a committee that came up with the funding recommendations, and I imagine that they were weighing all of the other agencies that are funded and the different types of projects that were involved for each one of those. So that's all I can comment on for that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Garcia?
Thank you for the presentation. I just have one question. I saw on the report here that in the public outreach and citizen participation section, city staff held a required grant application workshop, which I think is great to support the agencies that are trying to get some of this funding. Could you describe a little bit more what that process is like in terms of getting the information out to agencies, and like how do they find out about this process? Is it typically a specific list of agencies that apply every year? Like what is that like in general?
Sure. Councilmember Garcia, so just with the action plan and the process, we have a citizen participation plan that is required by HUD. So we have a specific plan that we must follow. And so we have provided this information to the COC with a continuum of care, which has access to quite a few agencies. We have a list that we send the information out to. I've been in the CDBG program in several agencies throughout the county. And so I think what we're doing is pretty robust, and we're definitely ensuring that agencies are being notified and getting the information.
And just to follow up to that, I guess I'm interested in learning a little bit more about the composition of that list. You know, does it cover various types of resources, or is it a group of agencies that historically has applied? So that's the list that the information is going out to. I'm just curious about the process.
Sure. So the lists that we have, I wasn't part of the process in the early stages, but I can tell you, since I've been a part of it, you know, reviewing the citizen participation plan and making sure that we're notifying agencies, just getting it out to the COC was a major, you know, they have access to almost every agency is connected to that. So it's more than just the agencies that applied. If, you know, it is definitely, we're trying to reach all of the agencies that we can that are nonprofits in the area. Also, CDBG funding is a specific type of funding, and it can be quite difficult for some agencies. We have had agencies that wanted to apply, but they weren't able to because you have to follow 2 CFR 200 and federal regulations and cost principles. So it's not as a simple program to run. You need experienced agencies that are able to meet these federal guidelines as well. Yeah.
Anything? I'll just make a comment. Thank you for the hard work. And this goes back to what I think the mayor said just a while ago. If we had unlimited sources and money, this is one of these cases where we can only make the decisions based on the income level that's there. And so I appreciate the hard work. When we go through these processes, we know we get contacted by agencies that people are advocating for the reasons to have the funding. But it is always hard to make these decisions when we're looking at limitations. But I appreciate the mix in the agencies that have risen to receive the awards. The appropriate adjustments are made based on the available funding, and the guidelines that the CDGB puts out are very stringent. I know many of these agencies. Lynn, thank you for coming. I appreciate all the work you do. And these nonprofit providers are doing things that city staff wouldn't necessarily be able to do as efficiently and would possibly cost even greater amounts. So I really appreciate the fact that these agencies are here to serve Monterey and Monterey County. And so I'm glad that we're able to do what we can here. And the solar project at Veterans Transition Center, I think is very exciting. So looking forward to that.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's like you're in my head.
Yeah. Well, and then you know how I feel about veterans.
Absolutely.
Do I have to repeat it?
Absolutely.
Dad, older brother, younger brother, son, daughter-in-law, keeps going, but
Absolutely. Well,
yay
it's
for the
important.
veterans.
It's
Thank you.
important. I mean, it's such a big part of the fabric of our community, and they do the work that a lot of folks won't do.
That's right.
So appreciate your recognition there. And I ditto my colleagues, appreciate again the work that's done by city staff. There's a lot of coordination that's done in the background. And just to echo that final point that Councilmember Smith was making, this is where there are exciting opportunities that are available that we try to get additional funding for these critical skills that are needed, just as important as all the other things. But when it comes down to trying to prioritize that, it becomes a challenge. So we have this allocation of funding available for us, and we're going to use it to the full extent possible. I do have one question. Is the staff recommendation incorporate flexibility? And if it's low, even lower than the amount in the proposed decrease, does it allow that flexibility for staff to move forward without having to come back to council?
Mayor, I would say because CDBG is a bit picky on
The process?
the
Yeah.
30-day notification and having this out for 30 days, and we've had it available to the public for 30 days, I would, and the planning commission recommendation. So it's possible for sure. And it's, I think, up to you if you wanted to, if the council wanted to change anything on a final recommendation, but we can consider that.
Okay. Okay. So could we incorporate into the motion the flexibility for staff to adjust based off of the final budget of what's approved? Okay. So does anybody want to try to take a stab at a motion here?
Yeah, let me try and take a stab at the motion. Are we ready for motion?
I think so.
Okay. So I would make a motion that on this public hearing that we conducted today on receiving public comments with the staff recommendation, I would add that if staff would report back to us after federal budgeting information is well known, if there are any adjustments in the future, this council would like to hear about that.
Okay, is there a
Does that make
second?
sense?
Okay. Does that work for staff?
Mayor, yes, and I will just say the only thing I'm waiting on now is for the final quarter finances to come in and our program income, and then I will know the final amounts. In the CDBG, what we have here is what will be. But yes, I'm happy to come back and give you the final amounts that we receive in program income. And that will change our administration cap. And then, well, our administrative cap is based on 20% of the fiscal year that we're in. So 24, 25, I won't know the administration budget, but as far as the agencies go, when I get the final program income in for this quarter in July, then I will know the final budget for the public service agency. So I think what you're concerned about is that we come back and let you know what the final amounts are for the public service agencies. I don't think you're as worried about the program administration.
Yep, absolutely.
May I just ask a question, Anastasia? I thought we had a 15% decrease in the agenda report to get authorization to change that. Do I miss something there? If the actual CDB entitlement amount received is less than anticipated, the funding amounts for the activities above will decrease in accordance with the percentages established. For instance, public service activities will all be reduced equally to remain within the 15%. So I thought that gives us the flexibility when CDBG finally gives us the number, which they gave us today. So I think we have it somehow.
Right.
do-
So the for the public agencies cap, we have a cap of 15%. We can't go over. And that 15% is based on the amount we receive from the federal government today, 15% of that, and then the prior year program income. So when the quarter ends, I'll have that prior year program income, and then that's when I'll have that final budget. Program administration is different. It's based on that fiscal year. So I won't know the final program administrative budget until the end of next year. So
Okay.
very strange rules for CDBG.
Yeah, and I think that the intent of the motion is, we don't want to have to do this again. I think it's just inform us of what the changes were and what if at all, are there changes to those that are receiving.
That's correct.
The awards. So just a simple report out.
Okay, any last comments? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you again, Anastasia.
Thank you.
And with that, we will go to council comments. Anybody? Councilmember Hoffa?
Yeah, I have a couple of things I just wanted to share with council. So these are really two requests to agendize future items. And I've got them written out here. I'm going to pass this around. I take one for myself. This one. So the first one, I'll just read this. And I guess what I'm looking for is, 3 council members to indicate they'd be interested in talking about this as an agenda item. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to support it, but I think it's worthy of our consideration. That the city council directs staff to budget for a traffic safety study at the intersection of Skyline Forest Drive and Highway 68. I think that addresses 2 value drivers, recognizing public safety is an important priority and responding to neighborhood concerns. And so the fiscal implications are that the staff would include this in our budget for 24-25.
Sorry, real quick. We won't be able to make a determination on who would be interested now because it's not agendized.
Okay.
But if you want, maybe we can get these to staff and we can get these on the agenda for next time, and then we can have that initial discussion.
Okay, so I'll just briefly summarize then. One of these requests is to do a traffic study. And the traffic study would look at the intersection and identify what, possible solutions could be developed. And the goal would be to share the cost of that study with Caltrans. The second request is related, and it really would depend on the council's interest in this, but the neighborhood safety committee there has been putting together a survey. They'd like our help in being able to access emails to, make that survey as robust as possible so we have a better sense of whether people are interested in this. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Hoffa. Anybody else? Councilmember Weber?
In that same kind of vein, I'd like to see us look at agendizing how we can honor the indigenous people from the Dutra Street Village. And also the update on the North Monterey undergrounding.
Perfect. And then I'll just for the sake of clarity for everybody, if you want to have something agendized, we all have the opportunity to do that. And so I just encourage you to, similarly to how Councilmember Hoffa drafted these up, to send these to staff, and staff will put it on the next agenda. So
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so under our governmental procedures, we would take a vote of what Mr. Hoffa is asking for tonight to move forward and for it to be on a future.
Not tonight, but when he.
A vote tonight to bring it back on a future agenda item?
Nope, so he has to submit it to staff.
Yeah.
They'll put it on the agenda and then we'll discuss if we want to agendize it for a future agenda for
Okay, so
discussion.
that's I'm one step ahead.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Did you have anything else for?
No.
Okay. Oh, you said no already. All right. That's a no for me. So we'll go on to city manager reports.
Just very briefly, this Saturday, we have an event at the Montecito Park at 220 Montecito Avenue, Fun in the Park. Come and participate in fun games, hands-on STEAM, STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. I wanted to say music, which is more fun. Activities and a visit also from the bookmobile. So that will be all on Saturday, May 11th, from 11:30 to 1 p.m. at Montecito Park.
I'm sure some mathematicians will not be happy or agree with you there, Hans.
Yeah, I can take that.
All right, thank you for the update there. We will now go into public comments for items in the closed session. We have 4 items. We have discussions for labor negotiations. We have existing litigation and impartial arbitration to resolve impasse with the Monterey Firefighter Association. We have conference with real property negotiators for 30 Fisherman's Wharf and with San Pedro Fish Market. And then the last one is conference with real property negotiation regarding the Child Development Center at 1608 Private Bolio Road. Anybody in the chamber wish to speak on any of these items? All right, so we have 1. Anybody else in the chamber? Just the 1. Just the 1? Okay, we'll check online. You can come on up. We'll check online. I'll do a countdown for folks to use the raise hand function to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we have nobody online. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Angaro. I'm one of the owners of the San Pedro Fish Market. I heard that I know today is they're going to be doing a voting in regards to what we've been discussing for some time. So we're here in the hope the vote goes our way. And I brought some family members to introduce. They're all really curious about what we're working on. So I have first Greg Rinaldi. He's been here before. He handles everything to do with operations. Greg's got a whole bunch of background in the restaurant industry, a lot of different chains he's worked for. I'm going to keep it quick because it's been a long meeting here. Nicole's with us. She's our director of HR, and she's also best friends with my sister, Jennifer, who's sitting next to her. Jennifer handles all of our financial controlling. No one gets paid without her okay. Like nobody in the line that I'm introducing, by the way. Next is my brother, Henry. Henry is handling all business expansion, all the new stuff that we're working on, specifically this. I'm going to skip one person and come back. I'm going to go to Josephine. Josephine handles anything to do strategically and tactically that Henry's working on. So they work together to make sure as we're working on these projects, all the details are handled and everything gets done as they're supposed to. And then lastly is my sister-in-law, Vita, Henry's wife. They're here together because they're going to be celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary.
Woo, woo. No better place to do it.
Right. And then the last thing I'll add is, I don't know that I've had a chance to speak about this before, but we have a new series that's going to be coming on Amazon Prime sometime this month. It's called Kings of Fish. You can go to kingsoffishtv.com to get an idea of what it is. It's self-produced. There's 8 20-minute episodes that are all about us and what we're doing. This is sort of a reboot. It would be what we're calling season 1. We have previous seasons. You can see there are 5 minutes. So this is the first actual TV series version. And if things go well, season 2 is going to be about a certain city known as Monterey.
Yeah.
So it should be pretty good.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
And did you say you serve fish?
We have we do something with seafood, yes. San Pedro Fish Market.
Just want to clarify that.
Lots and lots of fish.
Oh, no. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and adjourn to closed session. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. What?